Do you sometimes think, if only my kid had better coping skills? The number one problem parents of kids with ADHD ask me about is how to deal with big emotions. And this bag of frozen peas is part of the solution. But here's the thing. There are two critical pieces of the puzzle that get missed when we talk about coping skills, especially for ADHD families. So in this video, we'll talk about these pieces, and I'll give you 12 super practical coping skills that you can use in the very next meltdown, even if your brain goes totally blank in the moment. And if you stick around until the end, you'll also learn the one critical idea you need to prioritize to make any of these skills actually work. Big thanks to Custodio for sponsoring this video, but more on them later. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Jacque, and through my therapy practice and online programs, I've helped hundreds of ADHD families feel better and less stressed. I rely on your support to keep this channel going, and the easiest thing you can do right now is tap the like button below. It'll help this video spread to more families who need to see it, and it motivates me to keep making videos. So thank you for that. But back to the frozen peas. Temperature is a powerful way to reset the nervous system, and cold temperatures work especially well. This is why our first coping skill is an easy one that doesn't require any thinking or problem solving. Simply put an ice pack on the back of a child's neck or a bag of frozen peas on the cheek and activate something called the mammalian dive reflex. It signals the parasympathetic nervous system to calm everything down immediately. I talk more about this in another video that I'll link below, but it really is as simple as it sounds. Just keep in mind that for some kids, the opposite actually works better, like a hot shower or a bath. As with everything in parenting, experiment to see what helps your child reset. So the second coping skill on our list is dopamine movement. Okay, it's really just an obvious one. Exercise. Exercise increases dopamine, making it easier for you to concentrate and focus, and making it easier for you to regulate your own emotions. This is why in my homework video tips, I recommend some form of activity before doing any actual work. And this skill can be really good for the whole family. So ask yourself, are you getting regular movement throughout the day, including periods where you have higher intensity? Don't underestimate how helpful this can be. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated or going to the gym. My favorite thing to do is just 20 minutes of whole body movement early in the morning before anyone else is awake. I start the day already feeling accomplished, which increases dopamine too. With exercise, I'm regulating my nervous system preemptively so that I can better handle the hard stuff throughout the day. And yes, I know you clicked on this video to help your child, but some of the coping skills I'm going to tell you about are actually meant for you. While your child should also have enough opportunities for movement throughout the day, this is a coping skill for you to practice. Because here's the reality. You are the most influential person in how ADHD affects your child, especially if they're under 12. If you aren't regulated, it's really hard to teach them how to be. But back to our list. Number 3 is to dial up your child's sensory input. This could be something like walking barefoot in the grass or using deep pressure like with a weighted blanket. The added sensory input often works to regulate their nervous system before they seek out more sensory input in negative or disruptive ways. And things like deep pressure, like a tight hug or weighted objects, can be really calming in an intense moment too. In my own home, we have a weighted blanket and a weighted pillow, and they've come in handy even for us, the adults. And before I tell you about the 4th skill that can really change your life, I want you to know that we'll actually talk about 2 different categories of skills, top-down and bottom-up skills. The 3 skills you learned about, activating the dive reflex, exercise, and dialing up sensory input, are called bottom-up coping skills. It's important to think about both top-down and bottom-up skills because you need both. And this discussion's often missed when people talk about coping skills. So top-down skills start here. They're things that have to be learned. They require logical thinking, problem solving, and actively trying things to change thoughts or behavior. When most people say coping skills, this is usually what they mean. On the other hand, bottom-up skills start with the body and the nervous system. Starting at the bottom means to focus on regulating your body first in order to calm your brain. For kids, I think of top-down as skills you need to actively teach them and they need to actively learn. And I think of bottom-up strategies almost like accommodations for their ADHD, not new things they need to learn. As you saw from our first examples, bottom-up strategies will automatically change how their brains and bodies react and cope. Just remember that both top-down and bottom-up strategies are critical because they work in different situations. One isn't better than the other. You need both in your toolkit. So here's a top-down skill for you. And this 4th coping skill can really change your life. It's also the easiest one you can do, but like with all top-down skills, you need to be consistent and set your reactive impulses aside. I call this one the big pause. And it's pretty much like it sounds, actively taking a big silent pause when you feel your emotions begin to rise for at least 10 seconds. By the way, if you've heard me mention this hundreds of times before, consider this your reminder. Don't ignore this strategy. The big pause is great to use after you give your child an instruction. Just be silent and wait. Or use it after your child says something that upsets you. Or when you feel like screaming. Just pause. Almost nothing is a true emergency. Give yourself a second to observe or process what's happening before you say or do anything. Again, the trick here is you have to actively work to remember to do it and set your reactive impulses aside. And if these first 4 skills are all you remember from this video, you already have a better plan than you did before. And by the way, all the strategies I mentioned for parents really work for kids too. So don't feel like you have to limit who tries what. This is especially true for the 5th coping skill on our list, which is super important for parents of kids with ADHD. This top-down skill is learning and practicing micro-mindfulness. Yeah, I know you've heard about mindfulness before, and it may sound impossible, especially if you feel short on time or have ADHD yourself. But what I'm talking about has nothing to do with meditating or sitting still for 10 minutes. I have other videos about mindfulness that go into more detail, but basically you want to actually practice paying attention to only one thing at a time in the present moment and in a non-judgmental way. And that last part is key. And the whole thing can be as easy as 30 seconds of deep breaths before your kids come through the door or before you read your child's note from the teacher. You can check out my other videos for easy ways to do this or check out other reliable resources like the Headspace app. Not only does mindfulness gradually help train your brain to stay focused, but it also helps with emotion regulation and seeing your child in a less judgmental way, which is super important if you want to build better coping skills to help yourself and your child. And before I tell you about 2 awesome coping skills specifically for kids with ADHD, we have to talk for a minute about screens, because they can either support your nervous system or completely overload it. For so many ADHD families, screens are a big trigger for big emotions. And at the same time, our devices can actually help us cope with tools like mindfulness apps, calming music, or breathing timers. So it's not about screens are bad, but putting some guardrails around how and when your family uses them. This is one of the reasons I'm glad Custodio is sponsoring today's video. Custodio is an all-in-one parental control app that lets you monitor, manage, and protect your child's device use all in one place. It's designed to help parents keep kids safer online and build healthier screen routines, which is especially important when you're working on building coping skills. With Custodio, you can set daily screen time limits and create routines for specific times of day, like study time, calm down time, and bedtime. During those windows, Custodio can automatically pause distracting apps or even the internet while still allowing the apps you do want your child to access, like a meditation app or a breathing timer. You can also monitor and block inappropriate websites and apps and receive alerts if your child tries to access blocked content, so you don't have to keep checking their screen yourself. For older kids who are texting or using social media, Custodio's AI-powered message alerts can flag potential online threats like bullying, and it offers call and message monitoring so you know when you might need to step in. Everything is handled from a single dashboard, and you can link devices across iOS and Android and even supervise together with your partner, which is especially helpful in busy ADHD households with multiple kids and devices. There's a free version you can try with no credit card required, and if you use the link in the description and the code Dr. Jacque, you'll get a discount on the annual plan. So if screens are adding to the overstimulation in your home or making things harder, Custodio is one of the best options I know to help you take care of your kids' online safety and create calmer, more predictable screen routines. And talking about calmer and more predictable routines, coping skill number 6 is a top-down skill you have to actively teach your child. And you should have them practice it consistently over time until they've learned it on their own. So decision-making is part of executive functioning and can be difficult for people with ADHD because of the big cognitive load it requires. And having to do a lot of decision-making and planning early in the morning can be really taxing. So teach them to prepare for the day ahead in simple ways to relieve some of that initial cognitive load when they start their day. I call this skill night before planning. So take a look at the weather together and lay out their clothes for the next day. Gather all the supplies they need for school or extracurriculars and put them by the door. Maybe even gather the ingredients for their breakfast or lunch. If they're older, teach them to jot down or reflect on 1 or 2 big items for the next day. You can do this one step at a time and add more things after they master each one. The point here is to teach them to make some of the necessary decisions ahead of time and begin learning how to plan ahead, which will help reduce overwhelm in the moment. This actually relates to coping skill number 7. This skill can help with so many of the things we want kids to actually do, or with all the boring things they don't want to do. Just like decision making takes a lot of cognitive effort, so do multi-step directions and plans. So start by taking a look at expectations that are difficult for them to achieve regularly and see if it could be helped by reducing the steps involved. This top-down strategy to teach kids with ADHD is called one-step processes. Okay, in reality, this can be more than one step, but even better if you can make it just one. For example, if it's very difficult for them to clean their room, see if you can adjust the organization systems to just one step. Like, if all their Legos are kept in bins with lids on specific shelves, that actually involves a few steps. You've got to take the box off the shelf, open the lid, put the Legos in, close the lid, and put it back on the shelf. What about having just open bins instead? Reduce the number of steps. Or what about when they have multiple assignments or folders or notebooks? Can you reduce the places they need to check for their work to just one homework folder? The point is, think about how you can make overwhelming multi-step processes easier by reducing the steps involved and subsequently the friction and mental work it takes to successfully complete them. And talking about mental work, this next skill is a really important one for you to put the work in. Many of us fall into the trap of thinking, why can't they just listen? Why can't they just sit still or stop talking or be nicer? It's the why can't they just trap. But here's the answer. Because they actually can't right now. It's not automatic for them to do so. But why does thinking about this matter? It's because our 8th coping skill is to identify unhelpful thoughts and replace them with more helpful thoughts. Your thoughts as a parent constantly influence how you feel and what you do. If you want to cope better and feel better, start with how you're thinking about the situation. Catch yourself when you start thinking, why can't they just, or any other type of negative or unhelpful thought. And gently remind yourself that their brain and body work differently. Replace the thought with something like, maybe I need to approach this differently. Identify the negative thoughts and actively work to find more helpful thoughts. This is definitely not easy and takes practice, but when you do it regularly, it changes your entire mood and how you interact with your child. And positive interactions and emotions are really important when dealing with ADHD. This is why number 9 on our list is a top-down strategy for kids with ADHD that I call positivity dial-up. And no, I don't mean like the super slow dial-up internet some of us were used to. I mean to help them dial up positive emotions. Emotions tend to take over quickly for kids with ADHD, so why not lean more into the positive? And by positive here, I mean feelings like gratitude and self-compassion and pride. There are a lot of ways you can work on these emotions, like writing thank you notes or keeping a gratitude jar, or regularly recognizing and emphasizing the strengths of ADHD brains like creativity and high energy, or verbally noticing the positive things they do so they will eventually see that too. And since I know you've been watching this for some time now, I'll go through the last 3 skills more quickly. They're all great bottom-up coping skills that don't require you to learn something. Just like tapping the like button if you haven't done so already. It's really more of a top-down skill, but I couldn't think of a better pun for this part of the video, so I still hope you do it. Now, I know you've heard some of these before, but I can't skip these because of how important they are. Think of the 10th and 11th skill on this list as part of the operating system for your nervous system. So number 10 is eating more whole, minimally processed foods that support brain chemistry. Nutrition plays a big role in supporting our body and nervous system to help it better regulate over time. So don't underestimate this skill. And the other key bottom-up strategy for parents is sleep. Making sure you are prioritizing good sleep hygiene and getting a good night's sleep. Because getting enough sleep is really important for proper brain function, including coping with difficult situations. And I want you to know that I'm not here to make you feel guilty. You don't have to overhaul everything. You can just do one tiny change this week, and that alone can make meltdowns feel 5% more manageable. And similar to one of the first strategies we started with, number 12 on our list is dialing down the sensory input. Sometimes certain environments or situations can easily become too much. You can dial down the load on their nervous system with things that block some of that input. This might mean wearing noise-canceling headphones, which can be great for overstimulated parents too. It might mean creating an uncluttered area as a visually calm space for them to go to, or it could mean taking a break alone for a little while. So if you've made it this far, you may have already figured out the one critical idea I mentioned at the start. If you want your family to have good coping skills, you have to realize this. Coping isn't just about what you do in the moment of crisis. Yes, using an ice pack or taking a 10-second pause helps in the moment, but real change comes from the things we do in the long run. It comes from the practice we do when we aren't upset. Build coping habits when they are calm, and the meltdowns won't be or feel nearly as bad. And if you want to learn even more tools for the long run, check out this video next. Remember, put your relationships first. I'll see you in the next video.
Rolling.
And this bag of frozen peas is part of the solution. Here's the thing. It landed much better the first time.